The bright moon loomed over Tommy and Ghostbur. Their devious plan was about to be set into motion. Tommy had been starved of the revenge that he sought for so long, but now it was time for justice. Time for the world to be released from the pain Dream had pinned into it. The two felt unsure about what was going to happen. Ghostbur shone like a star amongst the sea of darkness while Tommy fumbled with his bubbling potions and golden totems that had been collected the tiring day before. Friend the blue sheep, Ghostbur's pet, chomped eagerly on the wavy grass. Friend had always been there, through the worst and through the best. Friend was a crucial part of who Ghostbur was. A friend who never stepped a foot wrong. But fatigue was etched into their eyes. However, hope was being clung to, like a rope leading to a void of despair. The only choice was to hang there or climb up. They had been through so much suffering, pain and torture, that this was the time, the opportunity Tommy had been searching for. This was it, the plan to kill Dream, once and for all. Dream stood isolated in the damp, dark cell, only illuminated by the constant flow of lava encasing the room. He was leaning cunningly against the obsidian, plotting patiently. However, given enough time, a person could forget their own name in there. The isolation was total, and stimulation was zero. The box he sat in was more of a coffin with headroom. Dream was trapped in two prisons at once. The prison that encased him mentally, and the one he stood in today. He had become a choir of screams at some point, yet the only person who ever heard was the corruption in his mind. He could feel it in his bones. Something was happening. He felt it in every inch of his body, the dreaded feeling that sent shivers down his spine. Doom was imminent. But this time was different. He clutched the revive book, filled with scribbled symbols etched into the paper on each page. He had his bony fingers wrapped around it tightly. He had a new weapon to play with, and this time it would cause more pain than had ever been inflicted before. Dream's plan was so simple yet hidden within his mind. If the feeling he had was true, then he could revive Wilbur. The Wilbur that destroyed countries and was driven to insanity. Ghostbur's cheerful ways that filled the server with elation, a single speck amongst many, filled with nothing but pure, unrivaled joy, would be taken away, locked in a permanent chamber of death, for eternity. However, Dream was ready to exterminate the bliss and replace it with a core built upon destruction. Wilbur Soot. Tommy nodded to Ghostbur as the echoing voice of Sam filled the preparation chamber with the first swirling violet portal. There was no turning back now. It was all or nothing. One opportunity, one chance, and this was it. Tommy arched his head back and rapidly swallowed the first invisibility potion without hesitation. Ghostbur and friend changed to faces of strong confusion, but they followed the levitating axe that Tommy gripped. With one final glance at friend, they walked through, and with that, Ghostbur Tommy entered the daunting main prison hall. The walls were filled with cries and pains of Dream, and in the centre stood Sam, the founder and builder of the inescapable prison. His eyes were firm and fixed on Ghostbur, who was spinning in amazement at the immense proportions of the area. Tommy lurked in the shadows from afar, glued to the walls in a deafening silence. The patter of footsteps echoed around the room, as Ghostbur finally wandered to the black stone desk. There were 4 large doors leading to separate corridors that could only be accessed through a complicated system of redstone and to many what seemed like magic. The walls were illuminated by lanterns harvested from the sea, forged in a temple of precarious arrow-like spike creatures. The rooms were barren of furniture. Walls were left undecorated, except for the vibrations of the doors as the locker room scraped open. Ghostbur calmly placed his few items into the chest, closing it only when a keycard had been dispensed. Tommy still perched in the corner, stealthily staring. A gleam flickered across his eyes, and he panicked at the memories like a child after a nightmare. He remembered the afterlife like it was yesterday, a daunting dream he never wants to relive. The locker was relocked emphatically. The noise echoed, waking Tommy from a cycle of fearful thoughts. They continued their way through the winding corridors. Trap after trap, door after door, step after step. Ghostbur was startled by the spine-chilling path, and for the first time in a long while, Ghostbur was truly terrified. A confused and anxious fear was in his eyes, a brain flooded with emotions. Sam offered no sign of empathy. His face wore a stone-cold blank stare. The attempts at talking continued to fail as they walked in silence. It was like a knife being slowly twisted in the gut, a constant hammer on the head. But the anticipation felt worse. A dagger plunged into the soul. The constant ticking of time was building the pressure of the unknown. Tommy followed in secrecy. One wrong foot. One step to alert Sam would ruin the procedure. Few times did Sam stop, turn with hesitation, only to stare back callously. Tommy's heartbeat heightened with every step. He knew there was only one chance for this to work. The subconscious thought bloomed in his mind. This could be the last time ever seeing Ghostbur. If the plan was to fail, disaster would prevail. Sam had done his best to hold back Dream, but no one could block the mental torture that Dream inflicted. Tommy breathed intensely. His heart pounded. His memories flushed back, but this time his eyes were filled with a fiery inferno raging with hatred, fueled by the adrenaline in his bones. They clambered onto the bridge, Sam unknowingly allowing Tommy with it. Ghostbur sensed the presence of Tommy next to him, an aura emitting pure animosity. This was going to be it. Dream's last few moments were about to come. Yet the floating bridge felt to take years. For a man who'd been trapped in the darkness from the attack of Dream, Tommy was flooded with an uncontrollable frenzy. The bridge locked with a halt, and Ghostbur sealed an eerie glare with the prisoner. Tommy's hidden face was boiled blood red. His hand shook, and his smile flickered. He raised his fist, equipped the axe, and violently swung at Dream's head. Time slowed. His breath stopped. He missed by an inch. Dream fell backwards, in panic, before grabbing his secret weapon the revived book gave him. He stared straight past the axe, and into the mysterious figure's soul. Without seeing, Dream could instantly tell exactly who it was. The one person that continued to defeat him, and sent him into capture. This was TommyInnit, and Ghostbur was simply a toy being used at command. Dream had gotten them both right where he wanted them, helpless and stuck. Tommy's skin crawled back into vision as Sam yelled. Ghostbur cowered in the corner. He could see the revived book clasp in Dream's hand. Tommy's face flooded. He was a husk of his past bravery, a helpless fish flopping around lost in shouts. The plan had hastily turned to disaster. A security breach of this kind was no laughing matter to Sam. He was impaled by a spear of irritation. He ordered Tommy back over without thinking of Ghostbur at all. He was safe, right? Abruptly, Tommy stared at Dream. A fear of desperation that he had not felt in so long was ingrained into his eyes, and a tear rolled down the fiery surface of his cheek while Dream smiled a smile full of revenge. Tommy knew Ghostbur was in jeopardy, and there was nothing he could do. His legs pulled him to the bridge that he had ridden so confidently only a minute before, and now he led regretful and bitter. His head was spinning. The mission had failed, and this time there was no second chance. He arrived at Sam's razor-sharp sword. It was held high, pointing to the wall. Sam pushed forcefully on Tommy's back while he was punched with guilt, but his eyes spiked with the cry of Ghostbur and the taunting screech and cackle from Dream. Tommy turned to look, but his vision was partially covered by the curtain of lava. He saw the saddened tears in Ghostbur's eyes. The ghostly look was more of a skeleton now. There was nothing left to do. Dream flicked through the book to the page that marked the death of Ghostbur and the revival of Wilbur. Dream looked at Tommy, looked at Ghostbur, and hurled him into the pit filled with orange death. Tommy shuddered. The curtain was shut. The show was over. But he knew it. Wilbur was back.